women want men to lead in the relationship. That doesn't mean that the woman can't lead, is incapable, but she wants him to. And something simple as picking a restaurant. Hey, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? Oh, I don't mind. Where would you want to go? No, honestly, I don't care. She wants you to step up, make a decision, and pick a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if you get the wrong answer. She wants you to make a decision. The masculine is decisive, and the masculine leads. But again, it's very subtle. If he can't pick a restaurant, how is he going to lead? If I have kids with this guy, how is he going to lead my family?
You're listening to Date Smart with Taylor Wade. 20 years ago, I co-founded Ambiance Matchmaking, an exclusive matchmaking agency that has helped over 100,000 singles master their dating lives. In this podcast, I share the same tactics and techniques with you. We'll dive into the basics of human attraction and chemistry, what makes a compatible partnership, does the one exist, plus much, much more. We'll do it all with the help of matchmaker Leslie Wardman, who started matchmaking in the 1990s. Mastering your dating life is easier than you think. It's just a matter of science and a little know-how. So grab your coffee, follow along, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Hello, this is Taylor Wade, and welcome to another episode of Date Smart, where it is my job to demystify love, attraction, and chemistry so you can finally master your dating life. In this episode, I'm talking to Daniel Smith. Dan is a conscious masculinity and embodiment coach. Growing up in a challenging home environment led him to live in curiosity, always questioning the reality he found himself facing. Carrying a lot of residual pain from some deeply traumatic childhood experiences, he embarked on a journey of transformation and healing, desiring to evolve in every area of his life. Through his experiences of learning to understand and transform himself, he started to become aware of the pain and challenges that everyone around him was facing, and developed a deep sense of purpose in serving others on their own transformation journeys. In this episode, we discuss his personal development journey and which teachers had the biggest impact on his life, what is masculine-feminine polarity and how it affects chemistry and attraction, how women can nurture the masculine energy in their partners, how women can nurture their own feminine energy, the biggest dating challenges for men, how men can learn to be vulnerable in today's dating culture, how he overcame his own dating challenges and advice for others, how we can use intimate relationships as an opportunity to heal and resolve issues within ourselves, and much, much more. Without further ado, my conversation with Daniel Smith. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Hey, Taylor. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm super excited to have you here.
Absolutely.
And so I thought we could start by having you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a men's coach.
Absolutely. So my drive and my desire to be a coach and then specifically to work with men is all born out of my past pain. So traumatic childhood that manifested in many unhealthy ways throughout my life, but I didn't really understand what was going on. Why was I the way I was? Why was I having the challenges I was having? And it was only, so I guess I went on a journey that led me down a path of personal growth and healing. And when I started to understand myself and become aware that there was a world outside of my mind and that there are other people in this world, not just me, I come out of my bubble. And as I started to heal, I realized that everyone around me also has challenges, also has wounds from their childhood, also has challenges in their relationships and in their finances and their health. And as I learned to overcome them myself, I just had a deep sense of purpose in helping other people do the same, be free from pain, or at least start to go on that journey.
Oh, I love that. Was there a moment when you realized that? Like, oh, there's like, I'm not the only one who's suffering and going through this. Like, was there a moment, or was this kind of like a gradual realization? Just curious.
There was, there was, I guess there was a series of moments in a short time span. So, the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Great book. Yeah.
I studied that book for 3 years with a group of people, and that was my first, I guess, entry into personal growth, spirituality, and I remember so clearly. I got like a third of the way through the book, and I'm like, "What is this?" It's like I was reading another language that I didn't understand, but I trusted the guy that told me to read it, and he really put some emphasis on it. And I got about a third of the way through, and it was like a brick hit me in the face, and I just woke up from a 25-year slumber. And so I guess the first step was awareness, becoming aware of the present moment and disengaging with my thinking mind. And then I remember I was sitting on a bench outside of Gloucester Road underground station in London, waiting for our group. I used to get there early, grab a sandwich, and just chill before, so I wouldn't be late. And I remember sitting there, and then suddenly I looked around and I saw people walking. I could see them in their heads, thinking, like worrying. And I just sat there. I was like, wow, I wonder what's going on in their life. Because I've now become aware that I was in my head thinking about all of my worries all my life until that point. Not that it stopped there.
Right.
The work is continuous. But then it's like I could see it in other people, and I got real curious. And I went through this period of just sending all these people just like silent blessings, like a blessing meditation. And it was a real impactful moment for me. Little did I know that like I'd only just like scratched the surface. I thought I'd solved life. And then I soon realized that it's like I went into this natural high, and then it came back down again, and realized, wow, there's a lot of work to do. I haven't cracked the code yet. So that was my first glimpse. And then around the same time, I was being mentored by one of the guys that ran the group. And as he started to just shift my mindset and help me relieve some pressure that I felt in my life, feeling the contrast between the way I felt and the way I then felt when I started to understand something in my life a little bit better, I was like, wow, that felt so amazing. And I'm so grateful to him. His name's Sean. And I want to do that for other people. But I wasn't ready to start right then. But that's when it kind of hit me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is quite a journey, isn't it? Like getting the taste of, oh, wow, this is what expanding consciousness and becoming more aware feels like. And just getting that taste, it's like just kind of grabs you and pulls you in. Yeah, it's a never ending journey, isn't it? Like it's just a lifelong journey.
Always more layers.
So yeah, a little bit more about your personal development journey then. What would you say, or tell us which modalities or tools you've tried and what had the biggest impact, or what made the biggest shift in your life out of everything that you've tried up until now?
Great question. So I think, meditation it's become very popular over the last, few years. I remember when I first started meditating around that same time, I was 25. So like 12 years ago, was one of the most powerful tools to become aware of the things that would trigger me, the things that would challenge me, so I could separate myself from the challenge rather than getting lost in it. And so I supported that with readings like The Power of Now, Deepak Chopra, and took a real spiritual path. But then I got impatient and I started going to Tony Robbins events because I'm like, okay, this is great, all this stillness and meditation, but like, I want some action. I want to build a business. I want to make money. How does this translate into finding a relationship and all these things? And I didn't feel like I was going quick enough. So I started going Tony Robbins, goal setting, hashtag hustle harder, and like on Facebook every day. Like I wanted to just go and crush life. And it's funny because over time, that kind of like brought me back down to earth with a bump, and I let go of that spiritual path that I was on. So I kept having to return to stillness, to meditation, and continued working with people that can help me see my blind spots, help me see the things that I didn't see. So I've always, ever since I hired my first coach and mentor 12 years ago, I've always had coaches and mentors in my life, because there's things that I can't see, and then there's also things that deep down I don't want to see.
Right. Yeah.
So even though maybe I know what I'm missing or something I need to face, but I'm not ready to face it. So I would go in a different direction. And ultimately, you said modalities. There is no, there's no formula. For some people, they swear by the emotional freedom technique, and they live and die by that, and it's facilitated all of their healing, and that's what they preach. For other people, it's meditation. I feel like I went through everything. I've been on a psychedelic exploration, which has been very powerful for me, and I think one of the biggest spiritual practices I've had is being in intimate relationships, because that's a time when I could really practice everything that I was learning. You can read 1,000 books on learning how to swim, but the first time you jump in the pool, you're going to sink, right? You can't read on how to swim. And so for me, it was a continuous search of testing, trying. Breath work has been very powerful for me as well.
I love that you say intimate relationships played a role, because it's so overlooked. Because I feel like a lot of people use a combination of a lot of the things you mentioned, like meditation and plant medicine, psychedelics, and working with a coach and all these different things. But people don't mention like using dating or an intimate relationship as a way to grow. So I love that you said that. And so my last question on this topic, who would be 2 or 3 of your teachers or teachings that have shaped your life or your work?
So I guess, firstly, you said teachings rather than teachers. Eckhart Tolle, he changed, I don't know what I would have done without that book. I'm sure I would have found something else, but that was a game changer for me. But then there's other people in that space, like Deepak Chopra was someone that I followed early on, and then only 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, I picked up Michael Singer's work, The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment. They're very powerful. So I kind of like bracket those. I don't want to bracket them as like one, but I'd say there's that spiritual piece there about detaching from the ego and finding stillness and operating from out of this moment, not getting lost in our ego identification and focusing on the past to recreate our future. Secondly, I love Tony Robbins. I went to all of his events, and he's got some fantastic work and some fantastic teachings that I still use today, but I no longer watch his videos. I no longer go to his events. And the reason is there needs to be a foundation of conscious awareness. You need to learn the Eckhart Tolle stuff first before you can make the changes and do the work, I feel, from Tony Robbins, because there's a lot of tactics and strategies which are very effective, but it depends what level of consciousness you're operating those from. But I'd say he's definitely had a big impact in my life. And then lastly, and I know we're going to get onto this, is David Data and Alison Armstrong. A lot of work around masculine, feminine, and relationships and spirituality through relationships.
Yes, we are going to go there right now. But before we do, which book did you read by Deepak Chopra?
The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success is the one that I remember. And honestly, I couldn't tell you what those 7 laws are. I can tell you the 7 habits of highly effective people, but I can't. It's a book that I read a long time ago, and Deepak just seems to pop up along. He's been around for a long time. I just started reading a book by Alan Watts a couple of days ago, and Deepak's in the foreword.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
He's everywhere. So it's like he pops up every now and then, but I'm not as familiar with his work as I am with The Power of Now or Michael Singer's books.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I read Perfect Health by Deepak Chopra, and I loved it. Recommend it. It's amazing. Also, he has so many books, but yeah, that's a good one also.
Right.
So yeah, I want to talk about masculine, feminine polarity. And for those that maybe aren't familiar with this topic, like what is masculine and feminine polarity?
There's so much depth to this subject, and I feel like that's a whole podcast episode just on this subject. So I first learned about it from David Data, and when I read that book, it just blew my mind. And understanding how so masculine and feminine energies that we all have within us, right? I have masculine and feminine within me, and so do you, and so does everyone else. Mm-hmm. It's a polarity. It's like you said. It's like a positive and a negative charge on a plug, like the North and the South Pole. It's a magnetic field, and each energy has different characteristics of how they the place that we operate from in our lives, whether it's in a relationship, like an intimate relationship, or whether it's at work, and it shifts how we interact with each other. So let's start through attraction. Obviously with what you guys do. I remember Tony Robbins at one of his events said, and I think he was quoting David Data. He says the only difference between a friendship and an intimate relationship is intimacy. And intimacy is created through polarity. And so obviously there's different kinds of intimacy that's not strictly sexual attraction, but, the attraction between two people. And so what you tend to see is that if you look at a couple that are, very much attracted to each other, one's going to have a more masculine energy and one's going to have a more feminine, and it pulls them together. It keeps them in polarity. Now masculine doesn't mean male, feminine doesn't mean female. So like 90% of men have a more dominant masculine energy, and 90% of females have a more feminine. But everyone has seen a couple where the guy or the wife will like shut the guy up and speak for him.
Yeah.
Right. She's more dominant. And
I'm guilty of that.
And so, that could be a woman that's more in her masculine and a guy that's more in his feminine, but there's still polarity. right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have a guy and a woman that are both in their feminine, there's no polarity there, so it's unlikely to create attraction, and vice versa. And also, two masculine poles aren't going to create attraction. And then in a more rare case, maybe like 5% of couples or people are more neutral, right? They're happy to just like walk along the beach holding hands, and they're best friends, but there's nothing there.
No
They're not super.
spark.
No, exactly. And so some of the traits that, and so that's, for most of the time, I will speak about a masculine man and a feminine woman, because and again, if we start looking at, there's heterosexual relationships and homosexual relationships, there's more likely to be a masculine and a feminine. So
Right.
all variations of relationship this plays out in. Traits of the masculine are, a masculine is all about his mission and his purpose. He's very focused on why he's here in the world and what he wants to create. Whereas the feminine is more about the love and flow in a relationship, and I guess the nurturing of children. Now, what data says is that we've come into an age where you've got this old masculine archetype, like almost like a caveman, right? He goes out, he hunts, he gets the food, he brings it back, and the wife looks after the children. And then that progressed to, she keeps the home, she cooks, she cleans, and things like that. And then what happened was we came to this point where people started to challenge these traditional roles. And so women stepped up and was like, we're going to the boardroom. And then men become more in touch with their feminine side. And a lot of cases, what this created was a neutralization, because now the woman comes home and she's like in a masculine, because she's in the boardroom, like making deals and putting people in their place. And the guy is out of polarity because he's like, I'm not attracted to that. It's not like he sees her as a man, but unconsciously it's like he feels it's like a masculine going up against a masculine.
Right.
And
Okay.
so you can come out of polarity there. And the only way that you're going to bring intimacy back is by coming back into polarity. And that's not to say that, oh, you're a woman, you should be feminine. But it's we get to this place of, how do we recognize that I have masculine and feminine within me, and I can integrate those and use them, rather than I'm masculine all the time and my girlfriend's feminine all the time.
Right. 'Cause it's like a dance, right? It's kind of like finding the
Yes,
balance between each of those energies and inside of us.
exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I have a lot of masculine energy in myself. Like I'm very focused and disciplined, and I like to get things done. And but I'm also like very much of like a dreamer, and I like to imagine different outcomes and possibilities. And so, like my friends say, I'm like a lot of air and fire energy, or like fiery and bouncing upon the clouds, as like one friend put it. And then my partner Diego, he's like very calm and grounding and kind and compassionate. And I'd say he has more of like, I guess, like the earth and water elements qualities. And so, I mean, him being more earth and water makes his qualities seem more feminine on paper, if you're comparing to like the feminine masculine polarity, I think. But like his qualities are like very masculine too. It's like a nurturing masculine, if that makes sense.
That's fantastic, because there's different stages to masculinity and femininity.
Okay, yeah, because it's and it also feels like it's like very fluid. Like I was saying, it's like a dance. Like it's like it changes many times throughout the week or even like in a day, I feel like. And so like one day maybe I have a lot of masculine energy and I'm, coming on too strong, and then I can feel Diego kind of like go into like his more feminine, like a more nurturing and caring. And then also vice versa. Like sometimes he has to become like very masculine to overcome my masculine. But when he does that, I can feel myself go more into my feminine.
Yes.
And I find that dynamic very attractive. Like I feel very attracted to him, like whenever he takes the reins and takes control and is more in his masculine. Like I really enjoy that. And so I'm trying to learn like how to nurture my more feminine side, and then also how to allow him to be more in his masculine. And I'm trying to learn how to do that. Because it's like I'm figuring out that also like I guess they call it like the intimacy killers for the masculine is I'm trying to learn what those are, as you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, for example, being like if I'm being criticizing, or if I'm trying to like be controlling or trying to shut him out, like I can see how that kind of just like tears down his masculinity like
You
immediately.
hit two or three C's that come into mind. There is controlling, criticizing, and competing. Those
Okay,
are
yeah.
three things that will coming from our female partner will cause a masculine to shut down.
Okay.
Men thrive on appreciation, and a part of that is because just when you were speaking for the last 2 or 3 minutes, there were so many different angles we could have taken this.
Yeah.
It is such a vast subject, but one of the things that fills us up the most, and we would kill to see our partner smile. We just want to see a smile on your face. So like we try super hard to make you happy and safe and relaxed, and then you turn around and criticize us. It's just like we've just been stabbed in the heart.
Yeah.
and it's it's so deflating. And I love what you said about, so you said sometimes you'll be more in your masculine and he needs to be more in his masculine to bring you into your feminine. It feels like a oh, you're doing this and now I need to be this person and show up in a certain way. But there can be many reasons for that. A big one is safety. Often if in a particular moment, if a woman feels that her masculinity is stronger, and she can be safer in her masculine than what he can provide in that moment, then she's going to stay in her masculine. So let me give you something. Let's say my girlfriend is, because men are creatures of, the masculine is very logical, and the feminine is very, very, is about emotion. It's about fluidity, right? And so if Claudia challenges me in something and I get emotional, now that's me stepping into my feminine. And so that in that moment, unconsciously, as even though she doesn't have any kids, we don't have kids, there's a maternal instinct, right? So if he can't handle me in this situation, how's he going to protect my family, right, in a crisis? And now she's in a masculine, and it's so subtle. The energetics are so subtle, and it's not about, okay, am I my feminine now or my masculine? What do I need to do? At the beginning, when you're learning the subject, or at least when I was learning the subject, I was thinking about everything in masculine and feminine. And now I'd never really think about masculine and feminine outside of the conversation, but it's more subtle and energetic. And like you say, it's a dance, but it plays out in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's I've just like I said, I've been researching it a ton, and now I'm becoming aware of everything now. Like I think what you you said you were doing in the beginning, and yeah, it is very subtle, but it's so interesting. Like once you become aware of just the subtleties, it's really eye-opening to how that works. Because a lot of people talk about chemistry and physical attraction, but at least like I hadn't heard so much about like the masculine and feminine polarity as far as like in dating and creating that like attraction and chemistry. So yeah, it's such a in-depth concept.
I just want to. I love the way you described me. You're talking about the ego, because you said, "Oh, maybe that could be confused for femininity," but I feel he's masculine, and it's a calm masculine, and people talk about the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and it's about it's almost like a transcendence into a level where I don't have to overexert. I don't feel I need to overexert my masculine. I'm comfortable and I'm present in who I am, and I can show up as a masculine without brute force. Right.
Right.
At the beginning, I learned about it. I was like, okay, I need to be masculine now. So I'd like overexert my masculine. He's like, see if she'll be feminine.
Right.
It's a calmer, more present and like sovereign state of being. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And so for example, like two people like myself and my partner, who both of us have, these masculine energies, like how can we, what are some, maybe like some takeaways or some advice that you would give to a couple like us where I'd say like trying to find more of like a balance, or for example, I'm trying to find more of a balance and trying to nurture like my feminine side, and so that he can be in his masculine. How can we work on that together, or is it a job that we can work on together?
Absolutely. You can work on it together, in a sense of, having this kind of conversation. But I heard something great a couple of weeks ago in the men's group that I'm in. One of the guys said that his wife has to be the inner masculine a lot at work. So when she comes home, she has like her own like derobing ceremony or ritual where she like takes off this masculine armor, if you like, and she'll do things that think of things that make you feel feminine. So maybe like taking a nice long soak in a warm bath, rose petal bath with some, with your favorite music, and just nurturing yourself, right? Feminine energy is about nurture. So, nurture yourself.
Kind of like getting into that feeling, right? It's like recognizing that feeling and being comfortable in it, right? So doing the things that make me feel feminine and just being in that more will allow me to be more feminine.
And then connecting with nature. Like if you're probably somewhere near a beach right now.
Yes, beach, jungle, mountains. Yeah, we have it all here.
Right. So think of the ocean. It's very fluid. That's a feminine energy. So just, being in water. The clothes you wear, right? Let's say that going back to the boardroom analogy, if you were actually going to work as a businesswoman, that can mean many different things, but, think of going to work in a pinstripe suit. And it's very rigid. Coming home and putting on a silk gown or a flowy dress, right? Everything has masculine and feminine energy in it. Even a place, so New York City is, I think, very like straight, tall, rigid buildings. And everything's, people just go, 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 right? Deadlines are yesterday. you go to Hawaii, and right, there's probably not many more feminine places than Hawaii. Everyone's wearing grass skirts and right, super chill, and so you want to. I think the first thing is becoming aware um, of the feminine and the masculine energies in everything, not just in ourselves. And then, how do I connect to that? Someone asked me on Instagram recently, how do I make myself more feminine? And it's not about making yourself more feminine. It's about connecting with the feminine energy around you. There's one other thing I had. Like couples should spend time with their women should spend time with their female friends. Men should spend time with their male friends.
Yeah.
Rather than spending all of their time together, because that's another way that they can connect with other like energy.
Oh, that's so true. I'm so glad you said that. Well, especially during this last year, during the pandemic and COVID and everything. And Diego and I went actually through a very difficult year or 2 years. And like we moved from Mexico City to Puerto Vallarta together. So we were like uprooting our lives, and we both had like our own separate lives in Mexico City. Like he had his friends, I had my friends, I had my tennis, he had his cycling, but we would, spend time together, obviously, but we had like a healthy balance. And then we moved to Puerto Vallarta together, and combined with like the pandemic hit, like right after we moved here. And so it was just in this new city by ourselves together 24/7. We didn't have like our own groups of friends. And it was, very challenging time to say the least. And then now, like we've been here for a while, and I've gotten to, meet my girlfriends, and he's been able to meet his guy friends, and what a difference. Like you can just tell like in both of us, but I've seen a huge shift just in himself, just being around those male energies and with his male friends. And it definitely made a noticeable change in his energy. It was really cool to see that, though. I loved seeing how that community just brought him alive,
Yeah, it's very important. And something we get to do more, especially when we go back to Miami, because we're, I told you we're here just outside LA, and we're not going to be staying here. We don't really know anyone here, and it's, it's very short term. So, and Miami's open right now. California's pretty much, it's not completely closed, but so it's very difficult to get out and meet new people anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we spend a lot of our time just in the apartment here, and which is, we actually got on great through the pandemic. And we both work from home, so we spend a lot of time together, and it's been fantastic. But also, I want to have some guy time, and she gets to have some girl time, and I think it's a healthy dynamic.
Yes, definitely. Definitely helps to have balance. So I wanted to ask you also, like you were saying, now we're kind of like in this, it's kind of like, I guess, awkward from an evolutionary standpoint to see, like you were saying how we've evolved, and now women, are coming home from the boardroom, and then maybe men are staying at home with the children. And so like, things are changing. And how have you seen men adapt? Like, for example, do you see that it's been difficult for men to go into their more feminine side, or do you feel like it's, is it okay for men to embrace their feminine side and be more vulnerable, like in our new modern dating culture?
It's a fantastic question, and a very important question. It is essential for us men to learn to connect with our feminine side, but the key word you said there is vulnerability. Men are taught to not be vulnerable. Big boys don't cry. And everyone has experienced traumatic events in their life. And so I focus a lot on trauma in my work. I think it's very important. for people to achieve what they want in life, the things that they're feeling blocked, they're bouncing up against. It's not usually another strategy or a tactic, right? If you do a Google search on how to lose weight, how to make money, the things that people want in life, there's a million strategies. It's not a lack of a strategy that stops people. It's some underlying fear, insecurity, limiting belief they have about losing weight, making money, getting that promotion, whatever it is, speaking in public. And the what's really holding them back is some sort of trauma. It's a wound from a traumatic experience in the past. And trauma is misunderstood. It doesn't mean sexual abuse is obviously a big one. It doesn't mean you experience extreme violence. It could be that you grew up believing that your parents loved your sibling more than you, and therefore you grew up with this unconscious belief, I'm not lovable, and you take that into your relationships and you sabotage them because you think, oh, they're going to leave me anyway because I'm not lovable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so why this is extremely important for men is because we're not emotional, and we don't we think it's weakness we get taught it's weakness to tap into our emotions, and therefore this energy gets stuck in the body, and we suppress it and we avoid it. And anytime we feel an uncomfortable feeling come up, that is like, that's something to say, hey, you need to feel me and express me. This is something you haven't healed from the past. And we push it down with and avoid it with alcohol, sex, drugs, Netflix, iPhones, Instagram. And we never fully heal and access this stuff that's keeping us, holding us back in every area of our life. And to tap into that, we have to be vulnerable, and we have to go into that place that scares us and face it. And men have a much harder time doing that than women.
Interesting. Why is that?
It's how we were brought up.
Yeah.
And men grow up, again, big boys don't cry. Like, some of the most powerful work I've done has been me crying, releasing. I grew up around toxic masculinity just everywhere around me. And so I actually grew up very masculine. And I realized, as I started learning about this subject of masculine and feminine, and I looked back and I was like, I see why. I can see all the women in my life were attracted to me because I knew what I wanted. I was confident, and I could see all those masculine qualities. But what I didn't realize is that I was a wounded masculine. I was very insecure. Underneath the mask that I wore was fear and a lack of self-belief. And it was really, to be honest, I did 10 years of spiritual work and Tony Robbins and learning about David Data. And it was when I met my girlfriend Claudia that she had the emotional maturity to hold space for my healing. And I felt safe, because a lot of the times people don't feel safe. Men don't feel safe, that if they feel if they reveal themselves in that vulnerability in their relationship, that their girlfriend, their wife is going to criticize them, is going to make them wrong, is going to judge them, right? Is going to tell them to man up, maybe. Like, we're afraid to open ourselves up, because if we open ourselves up, we've got this as a protective layer. So if we open it up, we can be under attack. And our brain doesn't know the difference between that and a saber-toothed tiger coming around the corner ready to eat us. Right? It's the same thing. It's a fear of death.
Right. Okay. And you said, so the wounded masculine. So can you tell us a little bit about what does a healthy masculine look like versus a wounded or unhealthy masculine, and the same for the feminine?
Yeah. So I'd say on both sides is inability to set boundaries is huge, because we don't want to be rejected. That's less masculine and feminine, but it plays out in different ways. A wounded masculine will try to use force, ridicule. So amongst guys, I grew up with guy friends that we used to make fun of each other all the time, but not in a healthy way, in a way that kept us from being vulnerable, asking questions. Hey, I've got this thing, this problem. Can I talk to you about it? Because he's going to go and tell everyone else and they're all going to make fun of me. Right. So we grow up with this armor and the wounded masculine, loud, abrasive, putting people down, trying to control situations through perceived power, but really it's power, it's weakness disguised as power. He'll try and control everyone and everything around him, because if it's not under his control, when he was wounded in the past. So for me, there was a lot of anger and violence in my household, and it was just a very unhealthy environment to grow up. And therefore, as I grew up, I would try and control everything, because in that situation, I wasn't in control and I was hurt. And so therefore, I need to be in control so I can't be hurt again.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, control not just my life events, but my relationships as well.
Okay. Oh, interesting. And have you found that, so you work with men in relationships and finding their ideal relationship or partnership. What are,
one of the ways. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the, I guess, like the most, well, two questions. What's the most common qualities that you see men are looking for in a partnership? And then also, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see them run up against in dating?
It's a great question. I think I'm seeing a big shift. I'm seeing a big shift in dating and relationships and what men are looking for. And I attract into my space a lot of men they're on their journey. They're me 5, 7, 10 years ago, not me 20 years ago. Right. And so I think a lot of the men that I work with are looking for someone that they can build something with. They're looking for a healthy relationship. They're looking for someone that can be a good mother to their children. If we're going to look at the wounded masculine, they're looking to conquer, but not in a healthy way. Not conquer her heart, but conquer her. Like, they want to go out, they want to sleep with as many women as possible, and it's their way of. It's an identity of, like, I'm in control, I call the shots, and I'm more of a man. If I sleep with women, I'm not going to let them in, and I'm not going to open. So men that I tend to work with are on that journey where they're like, okay, I want to open and I want to have a healthy relationship. I'm just not sure how. And I'm afraid that the next one's going to be like the last one. And that wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And that feeds into the second question, in that I think the biggest challenge men have is they have a problem. Two things. One, emotional regulation, which is the ability for me to allow my emotions to flow through me rather than me being a dam where everything just gets blocked and congested, because that's how it manifests in unhealthy ways. and causes conflict in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't understand this masculine feminine dynamic. And I'm always very careful to speak about it, because it's very easy to start thinking everything in terms of masculine feminine, and I want it to be more fluid than that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have an understanding of some simple things, like women want men to lead in the relationship. That doesn't mean that the woman can't lead, is incapable, but she wants him to. And something simple as picking a restaurant. Hey, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? Oh, I don't mind. Where would you want to go? No, honestly, I don't care. She wants you to step up, make a decision, and pick a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if you get the wrong answer. She wants you to make a decision. The masculine is decisive, and the masculine leads. But again, it's very subtle. If he can't pick a restaurant, how is he going to lead? If I have kids for this guy, how is he going to lead my family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you brought up a great point, because we have a lot of male clients, and they come to us and they're like, I don't know what to do anymore, because now they're coming up against like a lot of, or they were brought up in a way where they were taught, to be chivalrous and to be a gentleman and to open the door for women and to pick up the bill and, to, take the lead. And now, they were coming up against some women and on their dates where they were, very feminist, and they were very much like, oh, I feel like, I can take care of myself. You don't have to open the door for me. You don't have to pick up the check. And if you ask me, I'm like, I really like it when a guy does those things. It's like, it's just a way of them showing that, they like you. It's just a very nice, simple gesture. And I agree with you. It does show, that they know how to make decisions and take the lead when they need to. So, but it's interesting. It goes back to just the whole, like, in this awkward stage, evolutionary wise, from with men and women. And it's interesting, but I agree with you.
I think you brought some great points there. And again, it is, life is a dance. It's not like there's no formula. Having said that, I will always open the car door for my girlfriend. I will stand on the roadside when we're walking on the sidewalk. And I want to provide, not because she needs me to, but that's something as a man, it's a masculine. We want to provide for our family. And I don't think that's old fashioned. And that doesn't mean that she can't contribute. Right. But especially like at the beginning when you're dating, again, I think it's something that's important. Although when you get married, still keep opening the door. Mm-hmm. But if you're butting up against someone who's like super feminist, or like, I can look after myself, a lot of the time it's because she's protecting herself from past relationships where she got hurt. I don't want to rely on a guy so he can screw me over again, or he can leave me, or he can cheat on me, right? Mm-hmm. And so as men, and every woman has had some kind of experience themselves, or they've seen it in their family or with their friends, where a wounded guy has treated a woman badly. And then there's Hollywood, and it's all around us, right? Mm-hmm. And so as men, we get to provide a safe space where our woman can relax into, okay, I don't need to protect myself anymore. It's okay if he wants to take me out for dinner and pay the check. It's okay if he wants to open the door for me. There's a phenomenal book that is so underrated that I think everyone should read, is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And he talks about a maturity continuum where we go from dependent to independent to interdependent. And that's the maturity continuum, and it's the same in relationships. We leave home and we think, well, we're dependent on our parents, and we think we're independent because we can pay rent and put food on the table. But we're physically independent, but a lot of the times we're not mentally, emotionally, and spiritually independent. We're quite dependent on our partners saying, right, we say, oh, I love you, hoping that we're going to hear that back. And if we don't, we're like, oh, well, like, I'm dependent on you showing up the way that I want you to show up for me. So that's not independence. But then the next step from independence, this is so critical in relationships, is moving into interdependence, where I don't want Claudia. I don't need Claudia, but I want her. And there's always going to be some level of attachment in a relationship. Yeah, there's like, yeah, I do need you. Right. But ultimately, we're going to be fine regardless of what happens. But the idea is that I come into her life and complement her life. She comes into my life and complements my life, but we're okay by ourselves. We're happy ourselves. We're not coming into the relationship. And this is a big misconception of love, that the other person's going to complete me. No, I complete myself. I love myself. And she makes my life better. Makes sense.
I love that. Yeah. In the 10-day silent retreat we did a whole day on relationships and love. And that was the main topic point of that whole day was that. It's such a something that I think, we misunderstand. Like, we feel like we're getting love and the love's coming from the partner, but really, like, the love is coming from inside of you. And so, that's a very important point to make, that, we are loving beings and we are full of love. And just to recognize that, and to think of the relationship as the joining of, two of you contributing that love to the relationship. And the relationship, I guess there's three people in the relationship. People say, right, there's you, there's your partner, then there's the relationship. And so, the relationship being like what you both are kind of like feeding into, pouring into. I know we don't have that much time left, but I did want to touch a little bit about, because in the beginning of the interview, you had said this very important part about using intimate relationships as a way for self-growth and for healing. How instrumental was your self-work in meeting your partner? Kind of like, how was that? Were you doing the work on yourself, while you were dating, and how instrumental was it? Like, how did it benefit each other? Because a lot of people think that they're like, I need to work on myself, whatever it is, like they want to work on themselves before they date. So I'd love to hear, your thoughts on how self-growth specifically can be mutually beneficial with dating.
So ultimately, the answer to your first question is yes, absolutely instrumental. I made a post, I think yesterday, on Instagram. It's like we show up, and how we think, feel, and act in any given moment is based on the level of consciousness that we're at in that evolution, in our own personal evolution. And so whatever shows up in our space, whether it be a job, a situation of any kind, a relationship, it's there to help us grow and evolve. And we're going to meet life at the level of our own consciousness. And therefore, the Daniel of 10 years ago could not have attracted Claudia that I have in my life now. At the same time, me today would not entertain a relationship with maybe someone that I dated 10 years ago, at the level they were at then, because, we met each other where we were. And so you've got to be doing, everyone, I don't know how to use the word should be on a personal growth journey of somehow, if they want to have a beautiful life. So it's important to do it on your own when you're single, yes, but that shouldn't stop you from being in a relationship, because what you can do by yourself is limited to what will trigger you. So a relationship is a mirror, right? And I had a period of being single before I met Claudia, and that was intentional. I don't want to distract myself with going on a bunch of dates that aren't aligned with who I'm looking for a start. And so I spent time alone. But while I'm alone, then there's no one. Generally, you don't get triggered the way you do when you're in a relationship.
Right.
And so when you're in a relationship, that situation, when she said something or did something or maybe directly to you, or she just, some way she was showing up, made you feel insecure, made you feel fearful, or maybe you don't even know what it's making you feel, but it's making you feel something that's uncomfortable. That's when you really do the work, because you can read all about it. People think, they post about the books they're reading. I just received the Holistic Psychologist's new book, which I'm really excited about. And it says how to do the work. But reading the book is not doing the work. Doing the work is when you're in a situation where shit hits the fan and you feel very uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, now I've got something, there's something there that I get to face. And Harville Hendricks, very famous relationship therapist, said that a relationship is a place for two people to come together and heal their childhood wounds.
Oh, I love that.
And so, there's many healing modalities, but being in a relationship and facing the parts of yourself in another that get reflected back to you and trigger the shit out of you, that is when you do the work. And so avoiding relationships because you need to work on yourself can easily mean I don't want to deal with the pain, or I'm afraid of the pain, or I just don't want to go there right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just tell you, no, I just want to work on myself. People are always getting ready to get ready, whether it's a relationship or a business, right? Sitting at home planning their gym workout rather than just going to the gym. You just need to go there and lift something or run, right?
Right.
And at the same time, look, if your life is completely upside down and it's just utter chaos and you actually really need help, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. But I'm guessing that's not most of the people that you're talking about.
I love that you said, well, there's two things that I loved. The first one was that productivity can kind of be like a distraction in a way, right? Like you said, like people can jump down this productivity rabbit hole and download all these books and look at all these YouTube videos, and they're thinking that they're being productive or working on themselves, but when in reality, it's just kind of like a distraction from actually doing the work, which I actually, I noticed I was doing that also for a while. Definitely guilty of doing that. And then the second thing, seeing or your partner being a mirror. I love that. It's so true. I also realized that with Diego, whenever we first started dating, I was getting triggered I was feeling like I found myself getting mad at him for like not being expressive enough or not being open enough and not being expressive and open enough. Like I found myself like repeatedly like criticizing him and getting upset and getting triggered over that. And then after I started doing some more work on myself and sitting with myself and being more introspective, those were like the two biggest things that I didn't like about myself. I was frustrated that I couldn't be more expressive and be open with people, and really just like, I didn't feel like I had a voice, And so as soon as I realized that I was projecting all of that onto him. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh, wow, oh shit, I got to really do some more work on myself and fix this. 'Cause it was like becoming an issue. And yeah, just having that realization was shifted everything. Then I took responsibility for myself and for the way I was feeling rather than just projecting all of that onto him. And yeah, it really made a change. It was powerful. But I love that. I love that people can use dating and entering into relationships as a way to grow and to do more of the work on themselves. I think that's also very powerful. How did you meet your girlfriend?
So we met at a salsa class in Miami.
I like it.
Yeah. I was living in Miami, so everyone I dated in Miami was Latin, and I figured, and I'm in Miami, it's like 80% of people are Latin. So I'm like, okay, there's a good chance that the next person I meet will be from South America, and there's a good chance that she will dance salsa. And so, like, I need to go and I want to go and learn basics so that at least I can, I can get through a dance. And so I was going there for about 2 or 3 months, and then she just showed up one day for one class, and we hit it off. We went straight for lunch, like right after the class, and here we are, over 2.5 years later.
Where is she from?
Peru.
Peru. Okay. Yeah, my partner's from Argentina. Yeah, I also had to learn salsa. Or tango, I should say.
Oh, tango, yeah.
And I had to learn to like mate also.
I had that once in London. It's like the tea with the funky straw, right?
Yeah, the tea with the funky straw. It's really, it's really bitter. It's like but I like it better than coffee. I feel like it has like with coffee, I can kind of like get a big jump and then I have a drop off. And with mate, I can kind of like sip on it all day. And it's kind of like a nice even, caffeine buzz.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I got off track. What advice would you give your younger self while you were dating?
Oh, so many things. Wow. I would say the first piece of advice I give to anyone, and definitely to my younger self, is get very clear. Number one, commit to personal growth. For your sake, for the relationship's sake, and for everyone around you, because we're in relationship with everyone and everything. And you're not going to nail it right away. It's a journey, and maybe you go through a number of relationships, but personal growth is a foundation. And for me, it's very important in the person that I'm looking to attract, that they're on their own journey. Which brings me to the second piece, is get very clear on who you're looking for. I remember there was a guy visiting. I actually did my like transformational coaching certificate back in London many years ago, before I moved to the States. And one of the guys that was on the course come out. It was in Florida, and so he asked to meet up. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know what to do because I'm like, I don't really go to clubs anymore, and I just don't know where else to meet someone." And the first answer, he's like, "I'm 50. I don't really go to clubs anymore." Not that you can't go to a club at 50, but his first question was, "Do you really want to meet someone at a club? You could do, but I don't know. A lot of clubs that I go to, everyone's drunk, right? Is that the best environment to meet someone? And if you don't go to clubs, then you probably definitely don't want to meet someone that goes to clubs, because you haven't got a similar interest there. So firstly, who are you looking for? it's like a goal. You can't hit a target you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And so have a relationship vision. I get everyone to start by writing down, and most people haven't done this. Just writing down, who is this person? What are their beliefs? What are their values? What are their interests? Do they want kids? Like, some people are 2 years into a relationship and we're like, well, I'm gonna have to break up because she wants kids, I don't, or vice versa. I'm like, well, you probably wanted to work that out before you started.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Things can change, but clear, who is this person? And then where might I find them?
Right there. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can ask that question. Well, for me, it wasn't at the club. I probably wasn't thinking it was at the salsa studio either. That was just kind of, honestly, I was just going there, and that wasn't a dating strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about it, that could have been a place because, well, one, that's how it worked out. And, maybe it's in, I did a lot of spiritual work. So maybe it's in ceremonial places, or a drum circle on full moon, or, a yoga scene, or breathwork class, right? They're the sort of places where the person I'm looking for might hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So who am I looking for, and where do they hang out is the key, because that sets the trajectory. What happens otherwise, we can just bump into people and we feel a connection, and then when we feel that connection, right, especially at the beginning where they can't do no wrong and everything is just like sunshine and rainbows, and we get kind of blinded, and now we start going down this path with someone and we don't know if there's an alignment
Mm-hmm.
between who we are and what we want.
Right. Until it's too late, right? And you already have all these feelings and emotions involved, and
Attachments.
And then you figure out, oh shit, this we're not in alignment, or we aren't compatible in these ways. That's so good.
How many times have you, and maybe you said it yourself, or you've heard someone say, like 1, 2, 5 years into a relationship, they look back and they're like, I didn't even know this person. Like, how did I get here?
We have a lot of clients. Well, we've had a couple, and they've done that. They've dated someone we had one client that dated someone for 5 years and broke up, because then they had a conversation about how they want to raise their children. He wanted to raise the children Jewish, and she was like, there's no way I'm raising my children Jewish. And yeah, they ended up breaking up. And that's why it's so important to have not only to know, but also to have those conversations in the beginning of the relationship.
And continuing on the journey, having those conversations.
Yeah, because we change a lot.
We change, and other stuff comes into our awareness.
Yes, that too. That as well. I've changed a ton in the last just 2 years. And sometimes Diego is like, what? Like, you like that? Like, you didn't like that a year ago? Or yeah, it's, I'm in 35 and he's, going on 40 now. And we're still changing. Like, people think like, you change a lot in your 20s, and by your 30s, like, you know who you are, but at least not us, like, at least not myself. I'm still changing all the time. I'm surprising myself all the time.
And I think that's a good sign, right?
Yeah, I think
Constantly questioning yourself, questioning life. Always asking myself, someone asked me the other day, what's a question that you ask yourself often? And the first thing that came to mind was, what am I not seeing clearly here in a situation, in a way that I am thinking and feeling about a situation, in a way that anything's showing up in my life? What am I not seeing clearly here? Because it's easy, we like to blame and point fingers and, okay, what am I missing? What is there? Is there something I need to discover here? And so it's on that constant journey of questioning and discovery. Asking powerful questions leads to powerful answers.
And that's why it's so important to have a coach or a mentor, someone to help you see your blind spots.
Yeah. I don't know where I would have been if my coach is constantly calling me out. Everyone that I've worked with, they're constantly calling me out and challenging not just how I'm showing up or not showing up. Am I doing the work that I need to do to meet my goals? But challenging my thoughts, my beliefs. Is it true? Do you really believe that? And it causes go inward and like, I don't know. Let me explore. Let me examine that. Eckhart Tolle says we have an estimated 60,000 thoughts a day, and 95% of them are repetitive, and they're the same thoughts we had yesterday. And if we keep telling ourselves these thoughts thousands of times, we start to believe them. And stop, reflect, ask yourself questions, and work with someone that can ask you the right questions, because we get blinded when we're in our own game. We need someone from the outside. And with new questions comes new answers. Otherwise, we keep living the same, recreating our future from our past. And that's why I think it was Benjamin Franklin, maybe. They said most men die at 25, but they're buried at 75. They live the same life over and over and over again.
Oh, God. Wow.
Someone else said, don't keep living the same year over and over again and call it a life. And that comes because people don't question their thoughts, their beliefs, their actions, their life situation.
That quote is going to stay with me. That was powerful.
It's a big one.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good one to end on. Tell us, where can people find you on the socials?
So right now I'm just directing everyone to my Instagram. It's at Meet Dan Smith, MEET Dan Smith. And if anyone's wondering why it's Meet Dan Smith, try being called Dan Smith and finding an email address, a website, or a social handle with your name. It's impossible.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one. It's almost like John Smith. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. That was very insightful and I loved it.
Thank you for having me.
So I
enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Yes. This is episode number 10 of the Date Smart podcast. This podcast was hosted by me, Taylor Wade, and is brought to you by Ambiance Matchmaking, an exclusive matchmaking agency for selective singles. Complete an application by clicking the link in the episode show notes or going to ambiancematchmaking.com/apply. Hit subscribe to get notified when new episodes come out. You can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review. It helps others find our show. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Ambiance Match. And we'll see you guys next time.